Events serve as stepping stones en route to retrieved memories. Events serve as stepping stones en route to retrieved memories. You're listening to World Reading Club, presented by Hakeem Alibokas Alexander on Spreaker. Social podcasting, presented for World Reading Club in association with Uniquilibrium. This edition's reading focus comes to us from neurosciencenews.com and is titled Events Serve as Stepping Stones en route to Retrieved Memories. It was published on January 26, 2023. Summary. People use event boundaries as stepping stones to scan their memories when attempting to recall specific facts or pieces of information. Source: APS. Dang it! I lost my keys! One solution to this frustratingly common scenario is to retrace your steps. This can be done by physically moving through the space where you suspect your elusive keychain is hiding, or, as explored in recent research in psychological science, scanning your memory to find them. Humans structure memories of these kinds of continuous experiences using event boundaries, according to lead author Sebastian Michelman, we'll call him Sebastian Michelman, who conducted this research with Uri Hasson and APS fellow Kenneth A. Norman, Princeton University. Intuitively, we perceive a structure in the form of events in continuous experience. A restaurant visit and a train ride are examples of such events, Michelman said in an interview. When one event ends and another begins, people perceive an event boundary, and human observers agree substantially on the exact moments when an event boundary happens. Michelman and colleagues' research suggests that people use these event boundaries as stepping stones to scan their memories when attempting to recall certain facts or bits of information. In the case of lost keys, he said this might involve reaching back to the last moment you clearly remember having your keys, say, as you walked in the front door, before skipping ahead to a phone call event and then watching TV event, at which point you might recall placing the keys next to the remote. When people search through continuous memories, they can do that slowly and thoroughly, but they can also skip ahead to the next event boundary when they decide that the answer that they are looking for is not in the current event, Michelman said. Event boundaries are important access points for this skipping, which is why we refer to them as stepping stones in the memory research process, or in the memory search process. Michelman, Hasson, and Norman explained this process through a series of 3 online studies in which participants were tasked with scanning their memories for details about 2 7-minute abridged versions of the film Gravity. In the first study, the researchers established event boundaries within each short film by having 104 participants press a button each time they perceived an event to have ended. As in previous research, the participants' perceptions of event boundaries were highly consistent. In the second study, 180 participants answered questions about the events in both short films. Each question started by identifying an anchor event in the film before asking the participant to recall information that occurred after this point. For example, in the space station, we see little flames flying into the hallway. When is the next time we see fire? The questions were designed to involve either a single isolated event or a specific number of event boundaries within or with a set runtime. After being presented with the question, participants were instructed to click a Respond button as soon as they remembered the answer. By comparing the actual runtime of each event or set of events with how long it took participants to click the response button, Mickelman and colleagues determined that individuals were able to scan 1 second of an event in about 48 milliseconds. Participants scanned, on average, just 1.9 seconds of an event before skipping ahead to the next one if they did not find the information they were looking for. The researchers found their stepping stones model of memory scanning, which accounts for the time at which the target information appears within an event and, consequently, the target's distance to event boundaries, to be a better fit for participants' responses than a model based only on the length of each event being scanned. Our first featured image is an artistic piece. It looks like the profile of a woman with her hand on her chin, and it shows the brain superimposed inside her head, looking at a bunch of light bulbs in front of her floating in the air. It's very Art Deco. And the caption reads, "The researchers found their stepping stones model of memory scanning, which accounts for the time at which the target information appears within an event and, consequently, the target's distance to event boundaries, to be a better fit for participants' responses than a model based only on the length of each event being scanned." The image is in the public domain. Neuroscience News continues. The stepping stones model predicts that the target's distance to the previous event boundary makes a high relative contribution to... Okay, this might be worded incorrectly or I'm reading it incorrectly. The stepping stones model predicts that the target's distance to the previous event boundary makes a high relative contribution to, because a low skipping threshold ensures that little time is spent within each event. The final event. I think that second word "to" should come out of there. Let's try this again. The stepping stones model predicts that the target's distance to the previous event boundary makes a high relative contribution because a low skipping threshold ensures that little time is spent within each event. The final event, however, is searched without skipping, Mickelman and colleagues wrote. The researchers further tested this model through a third study of 100 participants. This time, participants were asked to mentally simulate or replay everything that happened between two event boundaries in each film. Although participants still engaged in some amount of temporal compression, they took more time to review fully simulated events than participants did when looking for information, suggesting that we recall events with a higher skipping threshold when simulating versus scanning our memories. Search time can be explained using a model in which participants skip through all events except the last one, which needs to be played through in its entirety to find the sought-after memory that it contains, Mickelman and colleagues wrote. In the future, Mickelman would like to explore how schematic knowledge about information in our environment interacts with episodic memory to support recall of specific versus typical experiences. Remembering what a typical birthday party is like could support recall of specific details about an individual's 30th birthday celebration, for example, but relying too much on these schemata could also cloud our memories of unique details, he said. About this memory research news, the author is the press office, source APS. Contact press office at APS. The image referred to earlier on neurosciencenews.com is in the public domain. The original research is under closed access and is from a paper titled Evidence That Event Boundaries Are Access Points for Memory Retrieval by Mickelman, S. and others in Psychological Science. You've been listening to Technical News Reading, World Reading Club, presented by Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander on Spreaker, social podcasting. Presented for World Reading Club in association with Uniquilibrium. Neuroscience News continues with an abstract from the paper titled Evidence that Event Boundaries Are Access Points for Memory Retrieval. When recalling memories, we often scan information-rich continuous episodes, for example, to find our keys. How does our brain access and search through those memories? We suggest that high-level structure, marked by event boundaries, guides us through this process. In our computational model, memory scanning is sped up by skipping ahead to the next event boundary upon reaching a decision threshold. In adult Mechanical Turk workers from the United States, we used a movie, normed for event boundaries, Study 1, the number equals 203, to prompt memory scanning of movie segments for answers, the study number 2, number equals 298, and mental simulation, study number 3, the number equals 100. So to prompt memory scanning of movie events for answers and mental simulation of these segments. Confirming model predictions. We found that memory scanning times varied as a function of the number of event boundaries within a segment and the distance of search target to the previous boundary, the key diagnostic parameter. Mental simulation times were also described by a skipping process with higher skipping threshold than memory scanning. These findings identify event boundaries as access points to memories. You've been listening to World Reading Club, presented by Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander on Spreaker Social Podcasting, presented for World Reading Club in association with Uniquilibrium. Enjoy a few more moments of demi-cerebral neurophasing binaural beats, aka demi-faves.